This first video we're going to talk about lead changes and the flying lead change. I get a lot of questions at my clinics about how to do a lead change and how to prepare your horse for a lead change. So we're going to go over one exercise that I like to use on quite a few horses for these lead changes. The mare that I'm using here, she's a 7-year-old mare. She's out of a Remnick mare by Deal and Dirty. The last time I showed her, she really wanted to elevate and blow through those lead changes, so she'd be a good horse to explain some stuff on those lead changes. But before we get started, they're pretty easy to do once you understand the dynamics of how a horse takes the left lead and how a horse takes the right lead. So we're going to talk about that for a second. The lope on a horse is a 3-beat gait. The horse has 4 feet, so that means that 2 feet have to move together and 2 feet have to move independently of each other for that 3-beat. So say for instance I was going to take off on this left lead. The impulsion leg, which is the first hoof or the first foot of the stride, is the outside hind leg. So if I'm going in the left lead, this right hind leg is the impulsion leg. That's going to push off first, followed by what's called the diagonal pair. And that's where the inside hind, the left hind, and the right front, the inside hind, outside shoulder, will hit the ground together. They'll move together just like they do in a trot. And then the third beat of the stride is the lead leg, the inside front leg that they're on. So for this left lead, it's going to go right hind, right front, left front. After this left front hits the ground and leaves, they're in what's called the moment of suspension, and that's where all 4 feet are off the ground. And then from there it just recycles again. Right hind, right front move together, then the lead leg. So in the opposite for the right lead, it goes left hind, left front, right front. So for a lead change or a flying lead change or even a lead departure, there's a couple of things you have to be able to do. You have to have control of the horse's hind quarters. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. We're going to be making some videos on the 8 cornerstones, and that'll get more in depth as to the hip control and the shoulder and head and neck control and all that sort of stuff. But I'm just going to demonstrate it real quick. I want to be able to push my horse's hip to the left and have her just take a step over. And ideally she won't move the forehand at all. I'll just take my left leg off, use my right leg back by the rear cinch, and then just ask this mare to push her hip over. And I want to have control of that on both sides. I want to be able to push that hip over to the right with minimal movement on the shoulders or the front feet, and then push that hip over to the left. I want to be able to push it here, switch legs, push it here. I want to be able to do that at the halt, at the walk, at the trot, and at the lope. The other thing that we're going to need is some lateral flexion for this, and so I want to be able to walk my horse forward, and when I pull that inside rein to my inside seat bone or my inside hip, I want their head coming in like this, nice and soft. Now I don't want her falling in on the shoulder. I'll show you what that looks like. I don't want her, when I bring that nose to my hip, I don't want her shoulder going boom and stepping over like that. What I want is I want that head and neck isolated off of the rest of her body so that I have control of just her head and neck. So when I bring that rein, I want her feet going straight and I want her head staying right here. Same on this other side. I want to be able to just bring that rein here and keep them from falling over. Okay? So we got hip control that we need. We got that head and neck exercise that we need. The other thing that we need to be able to do is be able to counter arc them. I need to be able to draw her nose to the left and push her body to the right. If she gets a little bit elevated and brings her head up, I'll just work her head back down and just stay nice and consistent, nice and calm. I don't want her going into a spin. I want her just moving that shoulder over in this counter arc. I want to be able to counter arc her to the right. I want to be able to counter arc her to the left. Just like that. Then there's one other thing that we're going to need that I want to talk about real quick, and that's side pass. The side pass gives you access to the horse's rib cage. For a correct lead change, you need to be able to control that horse's rib cage as well. So they need to be able to side pass fairly good. They don't have to do it perfect, but they need to be able to side pass fairly decent. When I push on this right leg, they move their body to the left. When I push on the left leg, move their body to the right. And I'd like them to stay a little bit straighter than she is here. She's kind of going hip, shoulder, hip, shoulder, hip, shoulder. I want her just moving together. So I'm going to take her and change directions on her and work that same side again for a second because she wasn't quite good enough. And this isn't perfect, but it's, you know, it'll work for this video on showing these lead changes. So what I want to do is I'm going to lope around here for a second, and I'm going to try to keep her at a nice collected slow lope, and I want you to watch the video. And in this case, we're going to start out going on the left lead. So I want you to watch that right hind leg and then that left shoulder. Now they're going to move independently, and then also watch this left hind, or the inside hind, and the outside shoulder, and watch how those legs move together and they hit the ground together. So I'm going to push her over, bring her hip to the inside, just frame her up just a little bit. Now I'll try to just slow her down just a little bit and collect her up. And just take a look at those feet for a second. The more you understand about the horse's feet and how the horse's feet move in each gait, the better success you're going to have at training for these things like lead changes and even stop, and understanding the footfalls of the lope will help in your stopping as well. But you see how this inside hind and this outside front is hitting the ground at the same time. This outside hind, or this right hind, is hitting independent of all 3 feet. Same with this left shoulder, is hitting independent of all 3 feet. Oh. And the same is true for that right lead. So for this exercise, for the lead change, the exercise I'm going to show you today, we're going to do a lead change from a counter canter. So what that means is I'm going to take this left circle, but I'm going to push her into the right lead. So she's actually going to be on the incorrect lead for the circle. So instead of going out on the left lead, I'm going to take her out this direction and put her on that right lead. Then I'm going to lope her around in that right lead. My left leg is still going to be pushing that hip over to the right so she doesn't fall into the correct lead. And then I want to bring her face over outside of the circle I'm on. And I'm going to bend her nose to the right, and I'm going to hold it there until she's soft. And then I want to be able to bend her nose to the left and hold it there until she's soft. And just take her head from side to side while she's counter-cantering. Then when she's nice and soft, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her nose, and we're going to be loping out here like this, and we're going to be at the right lead on with her nose to the left. I'm going to keep her nose here. I'm going to take my left leg off and then push her hip over with my right leg like this and get her to pick up that lead change. So we're going to give that a try. If you're having problems with this exercise, it usually is going to come from one of 2 things. Number one, they're going to be really resistant in the face, and so you need to go back and do more of that lateral flexion exercise, getting that face nice and soft. Or they're going to get real chargy when you ask for that lead change going from the counter canter. And just don't make a big deal about it. If they get chargy and they change gaits, or they're not gaits, they change leads, but they charge through it, just bring them back down to a walk, counter arc them a little bit more, and take them back out and try it again. The keys to this exercise are, number one, not getting upset and just being patient, and then persistence or consistency is another key to this exercise. So we're going to start her out. I'm going to shape her up for this right lead. I'm going to go out on this right lead, and I'm going to keep my left hip, or sorry, my left leg into her left hip, and just ask her to lope this counter, or counter canter. And I'm just going to be bringing, I want her going a little bit more forward than she is. I'm going to bring that nose out to the left, or to the right. When she gets kind of elevated in the face like that, just don't worry about it. I kind of have a saying that I tell people at my clinics, and you got to be like a duck. When it rains and water gets on the duck's back, it just kind of rolls off the duck's feathers. And the same thing you got to do here. When she gets elevated and gets excited, just don't make a big deal about it. Now that she's doing a little bit better, I'm going to take her and I'm going to bring that nose to the inside. I'm just going to kind of wait for her. There we go. Good. I won't hold it there for very long because she's not quite soft enough yet. So I'll just kind of tip it in there, wait for her to soften up a little bit, and then let her go back into this counter canter. Tip it in there again. Good. The one thing that we're not going to do is we're not going to ask for this lead change in the center of the arena. I don't want her thinking that every time she comes to the center that she needs to change leads. So we're going to change them. We're going to change them everywhere except for the center. We're going to go around one more time. She's kind of getting a little bit softer. Keep her going. Keep that hip out there. Draw her face back to the right. We get on this other wall here, then I'm going to go ahead and ask for that lead change. So I'm going to tape her face to the left, and take my left leg off and add my right leg. Good, just like that. When she goes out and does good, I'm just going to let her cruise around for a second. If she starts getting too fast, I'll draw her back up to me. But I'll just get my legs off her, try to keep my hands off her a little bit more, and just give her a reward for it. Walk. So we're going to try that again so you guys can see that again. But before I do that, I'm going to take her in and counter arc her. I'm going to go over all these exercises again. I want to be able to counter arc her off my left leg. So bend her to the left, push her to the right. I want to be able to take her and counter arc her to the left off my right leg. So bend her to the right, push her to the left. I also want to be able to have control of the hip when we're in that counter arc. So I want to be able to counter arc her to the left, or sorry, counter arc her to the right, and then push that hip over. And take her and counter arc her again. And then push that hip. And do the same thing this way. Counter arc her. When she kind of loses her forward, we'll just bump her back with both legs. And then push that hip over. Good. Whoa. So what we're going to do is we're going to try it again. I'll show you one more time. Nice thing about these videos is you'll be able to watch them over and over and over again. So if I can show you 2 times, then hopefully you'll be able to just hit rewind. So what we're going to do is we're going to shape her up for this right lead. Nose to the right, hip to the right. I don't want her falling in. I'm going to keep that nose to the right. Go a circle here. I'm going to tip that nose to the left. When you tip that nose to the left, keep pushing that hip to the right, but take your right leg and put just a little bit more pressure with your right leg so your horse doesn't want to just side pass out of this, so that they stay in this same circle. One of the keys is being able to keep them on the same circle regardless of counter-arcing or counter-arcing a canter or counter-cantering or doing a correct canter. So we'll go around one more time and then I'll ask her to change over here again. And tip that nose. Now I'm going to take my left leg off and add my right leg. And when she wants to get elevated like that and not do a good one, I won't give her that reward. We'll just go right back to it. She gives me a good lead change here, then I'll give her that reward. There we go. And walk. Whoa. So that was the lead changing. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Feel free to watch it and watch it and watch it again if you have any questions. Like I said on the welcome video, just go to the comment or contact page and you can shoot me an email and I will do my best to get back to you in a timely manner with an answer. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you out on the clinic somewhere.